Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company, the bank that puts you first. They can meet your banking and financing needs for personal, agricultural, business, commercial, mortgages, and so much more. Visit firstbank.com to learn more.
What's up, Hokie Nation, and welcome into episode 448 of the Tech Sideline podcast. Virginia Tech women's basketball is right around the corner. So who better to bring on than the head coach of the Hokies, Coach Duffy, joining us on set for episode 448 of the Tech Sideline podcast, which starts right now. And we record on Tuesday, October 28th, 2025 from the Tech Solutions Studios in the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center. Remember to like, subscribe, and refer the show to a friend. I'm your host, Carter Hill. To my left is our managing editor, David Cunningham. Behind the scenes is our director of media. Producing, as always, Mr. Nick Brown. And we are joined by our special guest on set, the head coach of Virginia Tech women's basketball, Coach Duffy. Coach, how are you? Thanks for hopping on.
Carter, thanks for being here. Hey, David. The set looks awesome, guys. It's been a year and it's changed. You guys are looking good today.
Kudos to Nick Brown behind the scenes for helping put this set together. We were talking about it before we started recording. You're the first coach on the new set. So welcome. We appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.
How was the off season? I know it's been a long time since we chatted, but how was the off season as a whole?
Yeah, what a difference a year makes. I think, your first year head is spinning. You're just pulled so many different directions. I think, when I talked to you guys probably, a little over a year ago, I knew nothing. Now I know your names. I know what you guys cover. I know all the talent you guys have, but it's been good. Off season was great. What a weird time in college athletics, however. And so we're all adapting to this new way of life and just a lot of recruiting, a lot of building relationships with new players on our roster, getting better at the things we need to get better at from women's basketball side and still trying to have a whole lot of fun along the way.
What do you like so much about how all these new pieces have come together and season's right around the corner? Yeah,
we have a lot of new faces. We have a roster of 13, 7 new faces, 6 returners. I think, ending last year, we wanted to really retain our top players and, make sure that they knew that they were valued and really excited for them to turn the page into a new year. The likes of, Carly and Mackie and Karis got just great experience in these roles. So that's a really big positive, coming back with players you're familiar with. And then we went out to that portal and tried to, fill some needs we needed, whether that's a little bit of scoring, some rebounding, a little bit more athleticism. And then our first, I guess, true recruiting class in a cycle, bringing 4 freshmen in, and they've been a joy. Really excited to be at Tech. They're working hard in the classroom, obviously on the court as expected, and I'm looking forward to introducing them to our fans very soon.
You mentioned pieces like Karis and Carly, and you talked about this a little bit, but to have them in your system for a year, kind of getting used to that role, how big can that be for them this season and for you guys as a whole in 25-26?
Well, I think the biggest difference is just how much stronger your relationship is with them.
Sure.
You're still a little bit, when you take over a program, you're going on the fly, kind of just going through hard moments, fun moments, and you don't always just have those quiet moments that you can really get to know somebody and, outside the battle. So I think that's been just, such a joy to be able to spend that spring and summer with them, hanging out with them outside of basketball, just really talking about their goals, what they've brought to our program, but just how they're going to continue to grow as leaders and great ambassadors for our university. And then when that's settled, then you can obviously get into the grind of basketball and them getting better. And, just to see each one of them, along with our now sophomore class, just stepping into these new roles and different roles, the normal evolution in a year two is pretty fun to watch. And I'm really excited to see them on the court here very soon.
You guys have a ton of options at point guard. Mackie and Mackie Nelson, Samaya Suffern is back. Carly Wenzel, obviously. Kate Sears comes into the program. What is that like, having so many people there, a lot of versatility, of course, a number of ball handlers?
Yeah, I think the game has changed so much. Back in the day, it used to be like you have your traditional point guard, right? Pass first, get everybody in the offense. And I think that evolution has just continued to move at rapid speed, meaning like you got Mackie who can play some, Carly can bring it up. You have people who you can move off the ball. One of the things with our transition game, we want multiple people who can handle the ball. So the way we label players now, I guess in our system, is a little bit different. It's not you're going to play the 1, 2, or 3. It's like you're going to be a scoring guard. You're going to be a decision maker, a lead guard. And so we have a great mix. You mentioned, Samaya Suffern, who's coming back from an injury, her just going to be able to get some time in a different way than last year having to watch. We do have a little bit of bad news. Kate Sears is actually going to be out for the season. So something that, she had to have foot surgery last week. And so a little bit of her initiation will be a little bit delayed, not denied, as I say. But again, the depth of our veterans will kind of carry that as we move forward.
I'll zigzag there real fast then. How much of a learning opportunity is this for her? You mentioned Samaya sitting out most of the year last year. She's coming into her true freshman. Kate Sears coming into her true freshman year, gets hurt, going to miss the season. What can you kind of preach to her from a mindset standpoint as to how she's going to now attack the season when she's not going to be on the floor?
Yeah, it was challenging. If you guys will get to know Kate, she's an incredible competitor. She wants, to be on the court and in practice every second. And obviously, there was a little bit of a detour with that. But I think the thing that we learned from Samaya's year last year is she gets to be that continuation of me, off the court now, watching film differently. The things will slow down for her a little bit. She's already seeing stuff. She's like, man, I didn't see that when I was, out there playing. And, thankfully we have Carly and Mackie and Samaya and, a good group of guards who can kind of, plug that for her. But she's going to learn a lot. We're definitely devastated for her and her family, but at the same time, they've handled it so well. And, she's going to have an incredible, career when it's all said and done.
On Samaya, have you mentioned it a little bit. Can you see that growth, like just her watching? She's watched so much basketball, sitting on the side with all the coaches for so long. Like you can tell that it's kind of slowing down for her, and she's seen the game a little bit differently.
Samaya's funny because she'll be like, "Coach, it's so much easier to know what to say and do when you're just sitting on the sideline." And I go, no pun intended, right, guys? Like yeah. I said it's a whole lot easier. Everybody's a good coach when you can, you see it unfold. And so now that she's in the action, she's still getting some rust off, but she feels really good physically. It's just a matter of getting her some real minutes and just getting her to her strengths. And but yeah, there's some funny moments of like, Coach, I saw that all the time last year. Now I got to actually execute it, in practice and now games. But it's just good to have her speed and athleticism. When she plays with joy and with enthusiasm, she'll be a fan favorite, as we remember from last year. And so a little bit for her is just, settling in, not trying to bite off more than she can chew, just stay steady day after day, trying to get better.
You guys, I believe, just had a secret scrimmage. I say secret scrimmage, like how much do you laugh when you hear secret scrimmage nowadays too, by the way? Well, does it make you chuckle a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's funny because now the rules have changed a little bit. So you could do 2 exhibition games with like non-D1 opponents or these private secret scrimmages. Now you can do one of both. Now they can be public depending on what's happening. And then even how we approach them, every program approaches them different. Every head coach comes in and goes, no matter what the score is, I'm going to work on certain lineups, or I'm going to try different starting lineups, or I'm only running this, or, we're not going to show certain things. So, you'll see scores that are a little skewed and different things. And at the end of the day, it's so much about just the prep and putting on the uniform with the lights are on, to do anything you can to prepare before. Obviously, Tuesday next week comes, and so it's fun just to be able to kind of try some things out, and especially with new players in our program, you want them to kind of feel as close to a real game as you can. So I don't know what the secret part always means, other than they keep you guys out and all the public out. But it's fun. There was like a couple exhibition games on the last couple days, and it's weird to see like a Duke and Tennessee men's game on, and then Memphis and Vanderbilt women were on playing, and there's some charity stuff involved. So hopefully it just gets people excited about basketball season, as football is kind of halfway or on the latter side, like just to get people thinking like, men's, women's basketball is right around the corner. And ultimately you got to survive that marathon of a college basketball season. So all this early stuff is, just a little initial test of what's about to happen. In
a scrimmage like that, how much different kind of stuff are you running compared to what you normally would in a game? I'm sure it's probably like you're just testing stuff, and there's, I'm sure, situational things in there too.
Yeah, and everybody does it a little different. Even when like the refs come in, like you're able to talk to them differently. Like you can stop plays, you can ask questions, like they might give you an extra timeout, or you can talk down to the other coach and say, hey, can I get a quick timeout? Just things you wouldn't be able to do maybe in a normal game. We were at our first scrimmage, and they were talking about how a coach blew their own whistle, at a previous one and like literally walked on the court and stopped the play. So with those secret scrimmages, like it's a little bit more, I guess, not the norm, I guess, of what a real game will look like. But yeah, you can do situation things. Everybody does it a little different. You can play a full game. You can play halves and clear the score. Like obviously we play in quarters. You can do situations at the end. You can do a zoned quarter. So a little bit, you can say I'm going my top 8 or 9 the first 3 quarters, and then I'm going to play, some of my younger kids for a quarter. So everybody does it a little bit different, but it's a pretty good time.
You mentioned that ACC, I think today, you mentioned that ACC plays a little bit like a chess match. So when you're playing games in November, early December, how much can you get a feel for how you guys want to defend certain things, attack certain people defensively when conference play maybe really hasn't even started yet?
Yeah, I mean, like even with the scrimmages, we'll do a real scout and we'll, talk about, who the other team's best players are, what our strategy is. And then, even after our scrimmage, we practice the next day. And even like that, for example, sometimes you get a day off the next day. Sometimes you go right into practice because you have an ACC game 2 days out, and just getting them mentally and physically prepared. There's a lot of referencing we do of like, when a team goes on a run, sometimes you'll call the timeout and sometimes you're like, no, they got to figure it out on their own. In a real game, I'll probably call a timeout, but you're leaning on those leaders to kind of, in those early stages, Carly and Mackie and Karis and Layla, just to have their voices to try and change if you're down a little bit, or if you're up a lot, how do you sustain the other team's, mindset? So you try and put them in all those situations like we mentioned before.
How beneficial is it for players to, you're doing all these different things. How beneficial is it for the next day or a couple days later for them to be able to go back and look at all this stuff and go and kind of, I'm sure it's a lot to absorb and take in, but you can kind of examine it and break down the film as much as you'd like.
I don't know if the players love it as much as the coaches do, because it's like all the things you've been talking to them about and, X amount of practices. Now it's like, well, the referees called the travel just like I did in practice, or the illegal screen or whatever it is. But yeah, there's a lot on film, and as a staff too, we pick different ways to teach them. Sometimes it's the big group film session. Sometimes we'll break off guards and posts. They'll watch some individual film, maybe on their individual defense, and we'll get with the point guards and talk about maybe our play calls. And so when you have more time, not preparing for the next opponent right away, there's a lot of little pockets of components of the game you can look at in a little slower fashion.
So I want to go down the list of transfers, and can you mention what you liked about their game and why you brought them to Virginia Tech? Yeah, we'll start with Kyla Freelon at Texas Tech. We'll go down the laundry list.
So we're 3 transfers. Very excited about them. I mean, we tried to go out and obviously fill some needs. Kyla played in our building our last game of the season with Texas Tech, and weirdly, we end up getting her. Never thought she was going to leave, and she goes in the portal, and I said, man, I just like that kid. She was bouncy. She had a motor. She was athletic. And then we all hit it off, and, she described what she was kind of looking for in her last year. And I'm like, I think we can fulfill that for you. And I mean, awesome kid, great energy. She has a strong voice on the court. She does the right thing. She's going to be that inside outside player for us to play alongside, Karis and Kale and our freshmen. She brings just that speed out in the court too. She can run the floor. She can defend multiple positions. And I think, the biggest thing will just get her acclimated to live game minutes, but I think our fans are really going to enjoy watching her play.
You called her an Energizer Bunny earlier in your press conference today. See, she just seems very, very athletic. You said fast. What does that allow you guys to do in terms of versatility with her at the 5 playing alongside Karis? Yeah,
and our 4-5s are always kind of interchangeable, sometimes even our 3, 4, and 5. So, one defensively, she can guard a guard. She can guard somebody bigger than her because she's quick and she's mobile. So she can get to spots faster before a big kid, posts up on her. She's such like a selfish kid too. It's like, whatever you need me to do. I think I love that about her. And then she's great getting out in the open floor with rim runs. She's great in that trail spot. So just the combination of, how Kale and Karis are built, from some veterans, Kyla brings a very different skill set that what we definitely need.
What about Mel Daly coming in from Northwestern?
Yeah, another veteran kid. She played 4 years, and fortunately she had a 5th year and decided to make a change. She graduated from Northwestern, has a degree, worked really hard, on and off the court. And then, a little bit, she's a kid that is a scorer. She's been in big moments in the Big Ten. She was looking for, a team that wants to get to the tournament and be in the tournament. And, but also in a great way. She's like similar to Kyla, whatever the team needs me to do. You need me to hit a mid-range shot. You need me to get a deflection. She's been a starter. She's been a kid off the bench. She's played a lot of different roles, which is really nice, especially when you bring a transfer kid in that, it's like if you don't do it one way with them, are they going to, freak out or not like things or whatever? And she's been, very cool coming in and being like, I want to help my teammates. I think, I can bring X, Y, and Z to this table. And she has a good steadiness about her. She wants to be a pro too, so that's kind of fun to kind of give her our knowledge with what it takes to get there. And but yeah, Mel's been awesome, fun kid to be around, very smart. I actually, as much as I like the basketball part with her, I really enjoy talking to her about current events and just her academic studies and things that are going on outside of basketball too.
Mel and Kyla, so much experience. They played so many games. How beneficial is that, especially like early in this season when everybody's meshing? They've been through so many different variations of preseason practice and stuff before.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix because in some ways you see things and it's like they kind of look like freshmen because it's a new school, new conference, new head coach, new system. And then other ways you're like, oh gosh, this is so easy for them. So you kind of find that mix of both. I mean, there were moments in the summer that I'm like, do you guys feel like freshmen right now? And they're like, yeah, this is wild. And I'm like, remember, you're 21, 22 years old, like you're good. So there's a little bit of an acclimation period, but I think we'll see it more as we get into the grind of a season, going on the road, just being reliable, things the freshmen still have to learn. And some of our younger players who haven't played a ton, I think we'll see that come to head. And I think what's the great thing about those seniors is they're the only two seniors on a roster, right? So all our other kids are young. So them being able to support, Carly and Karis and Mackie too is a big deal.
How about Sophie Swanson coming in from Purdue?
Sophie's great. Sophie is just a knockdown shooter. She can get downhill. We're excited to continue to build with her. She just has a little swagger about herself. She's competitive. I tease her, she's too hard on herself sometimes, but I think, when you lose somebody like Matilda, who could shoot it so well, you had to kind of replace that a little bit. So we'll obviously have some guards who can do that by committee, but I think, the more Sophie plays in our system, having 2 years left, we're going to see some great things from her.
In terms of the freshmen, you have 4 of them. You already talked about Kate a little bit. In the front court, Amani and Anaya. What have they brought, and what do you kind of envision their role being? Obviously still a lot to learn for them as freshmen, but it seems like they might be able to help you guys this year.
Yeah, I think the 2 forwards, they come from winning programs, which I love. So whether that's the AAU circuit or high school programs, they've won state championships, they've won national championships with AAU. They've played with really good players. They've been the star. They've been, a role player on really good teams. So they've kind of seen it all. They bring some size. I mean, both, good 6'3", Anaya's, physical inside. Amani's very physical, different skill sets offensively, but, they both fit. Like Anaya's a really good passer. Amani has a knack to just get a bucket. And so they're learning what it takes to be great, how hard it is some days in practice and, with their weight training. And, sometimes we laugh because we're like, you guys are doing awesome. And they're like, whew, this is a lot. And that was a long practice. And we're like, it was an hour and a half, but the level you have to play at different than high school. So again, if we can get them some early minutes, helping out and, just getting confident out there on the court, I think they'll bring some great things for us for years to come.
Spella Bretzel. Did I say that right?
You did awesome.
All right.
Yes,
Rhymes
Carter.
with pretzel, right?
Yes.
Rhymes with pretzel. How did she come on your radar?
Yeah,
you added her in August, maybe?
Yeah, a little bit of a late addition. So when we were looking at last pieces of our roster, there was a huge wave of international players that decided that potentially they were going to come over to men's and women's college basketball. And we were recruiting a couple other kids, and we talked to different agents and scouting services, all over the world. And her name came up, and we knew with a little bit of what was going on with the government, there's potentially that we wouldn't be able to get her until maybe school started in fall. And so she was off playing with her national team in Slovenia and playing a lot of basketball. So we're like, hey, we feel good that she might miss a little bit of our stuff, but she's going to be hooping and playing. Got her visa, thank goodness. It was a few month process, got into school easily. She's a great student. And then she comes, I think, literally 3 days before the first day of classes. Because that visa arrived in her hands and she was on a plane. So it happened fast. Hilarious the first couple practices because it's just like, I'm like, Spella, just blend in, do your thing. She's smiling. She's so grateful. And she's done an awesome job. Kind of a utility player for us. So she can play inside. She can play on the perimeter. She's learning in a different language. I try and remind myself, like, talk a little slower, but she understands a ton. Like I said, killing it in the classroom and, just an amazing young woman.
So her first language is Slovenian, and she's learning in English in college.
Yeah.
Like, I just imagine how complicated that is. And then, but I'm sure it helps her being around everyone in the locker room and at practice all the time. She probably has to pick it up pretty quickly.
Well, and I tease him because it's not just you're learning English that you did in school. Like, think about all the slang.
Yeah.
And you're in the locker room with the girls, and then the coaches are saying something that's like, well, that's not how the girls say it. So it's just funny. Then she speaks 2 other languages. I'm drawing a blank on her other 2, but like, I think she speaks 4 languages. So we're always like, the least we can learn is a couple of your words, to help you out. So she's like, don't worry, coach, I'm good. And but she's a unique individual.
Kale Peterson, Layla Wells, what do you kind of envision their roles maybe being this season? Maybe taking a step up from a year prior and kind of fitting in more to your system in year 2 in Blacksburg.
I think the thing you'll see from them is just a different level of confidence. I mean, they both got some solid quality minutes. Freshman year is always up and down, but they both were huge factors at different points. And, even when Rose went down last year for a little bit, Kale stepped into that starting lineup. And again, a kid that was like, whatever you need me to do, she can play inside, outside, putting the ball on the floor a little bit more. She's a great, like I said, addition with Karis and Kyla. And then Layla has been, a couple things. Tremendous from the leadership side of things. She's really helping the older players, looking out for the freshmen. She's in the gym all the time. She's able to knock down the 3. Just understanding the game a little bit better. I think it was moving, pretty fast for her in year 1. And so there's always a huge jump in some form, freshman year to sophomore year. And we're seeing some great things so far.
What have you liked so far about what you've seen from your group defensively and just what you guys, meshing everything together, the returners, they already know kind of what you guys want to do. What's it been like so far in terms of defense?
Well, I was not happy with my defense all year last year. And, a little bit was, you have to look at a couple factors, statistically, what are we looking like? Big games that maybe we lost. What was the defensive, components that hurt us? How can we drill it better? How can our players take ownership of it more? I'm traditionally a man-to-man coach. We throw in a little bit of some other things, but, the pride of it, my teams have always been really tough. And I think there was a whole nother level that we have needed to get to. And I'm just proud of the progress, but there is no letting our foot off the gas this entire season. And we're still going to have up and down moments, but I think with our depth, it should be a little bit better. But I'm not going to talk too highly of it yet until I see it when it really matters. And I'm just on high alert about our rebounding and defense. Offensively, we were pretty efficient, one of the most efficient teams in the country. And so that was amazing, but it pained me a little bit that our defense and our rebounding wasn't where I necessarily want it to be for this upcoming season.
So Liz Kitley's back, assistant to the head coach in external operations. How did this come to be? And maybe how did this first kind of get on your radar as a potential possibility?
Yeah, Liz has been around a little bit, just coming in, obviously her jersey was retired. She was doing the WNBA stuff. And then, she's rehabbing her knee right now, supposed to go overseas. And we just got talking of like, what are you going to do? Well, you got a little bit of time. And then fast forward, today was her first day on the job. So just a lot of conversation. Would you want to coach someday? Would you want to get into more of like the administrative side? Do you just want to kind of see what all of college athletics is all about? So we're kind of giving her a lot of different hats to put on. Obviously, she's going to be amazing with our players and our community, but we're going to teach her a little bit about rev share and NIL. She's been exposed to it as a player, but there's a whole nother side when you're on, my side. And then she's going to dabble in TV and radio a little bit and see if she likes that. And so I just was talking to her today. I'm like, I'm so excited to see what you hate and what you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm really good at it. She's going to be good at a lot of things. And so it's just a little bit of, obviously her playing career is still on the table and she's focused on that, but to, have her around our team and our staff is great. So it'll be fun to have her in Castle throughout these next, 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, you guys, it sounds like she's going to call some games on the ACC Network Extra and some with Evan Hughes on the Virginia Tech Sports Network on the radio. What will it be like? Just everybody around Blacksburg just knows how much Liz Kitley means to Virginia Tech and to the fans. What will it be like to have her as kind of another person to preach, spokesperson of the program, just on a daily basis. You turn on the radio or turn on the television and, oh my God, there's Liz Kitley.
We're gonna see a lot of her, I think. I think the great thing about it is, even when we came out with the release and she officially got hired, and I said, "How was the day?" and she hadn't yet come to Blacksburg, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it was crazy." I just think the joy that people have for Liz is amazing. Obviously, what she did for our program, but she's just a good human being, and she really cares about this place. And I'm just so big on surrounding our players, which is with as many good people that we can, whether that's their coaching staff, somebody like Liz, strength and conditioning, our graduate assistant, it doesn't matter. And so the fact that she can move around to different dynamics in our program and just have that casual conversation with Carly or a young freshman in Amani, when I told the girls, their eyes just lit up and different, because some played with her. There's a handful that played with her when they were freshmen. And then you got our freshmen who are just like, oh my God, I watched her in a Final Four and she was drafted. And so just her being around them is going to be huge for us.
Can you kind of hype up these new uniforms? When you first got to Blacksburg, football released those new uniforms, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Women's basketball is getting some similar reaction. Can you hype up these new uniforms for the fan base?
Good. I didn't know what the reaction was going to be, but we, you got to cycle some uniforms out. I mean, all the kids, if they could wear 10 different uniforms and all the all the style of it, they'd be so happy. But we have I think one of them is the new Sabrina line that's out.
Yeah.
And so we got the Hokies across the chest, and then we got Virginia Tech, and then we're coming out with an orange one, I believe.
Like all orange.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I broke the news. Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay.
No,
it's
but,
okay.
I
A video game broke it last time. That was better to hear from the head coach.
So yeah, they're awesome. So the girls will look good. So I always say, if you're gonna look good, you better play good. But yeah, no, it's fun. They love that part. They love the media attention with it.
Yeah, I think your creative team did a very good job of just rolling out like 3 or 4 different uniforms.
Yeah.
All
guys,
orange.
they're gonna be so mad at me if we haven't seen the
No,
orange.
no.
They're all over social media.
I'll take one. I'll take the hit
You're
on
good. Are you very picky about your uniforms, like what you guys are wearing, or is it kind of just like whatever they feel comfortable in?
Well, I have a say in the initial design of okay, how many, is it Hokie script? Is it the block? Is it orange is kind of an interesting color with women, like the way they look in it. So, all the girls have opinions on that. But then once we get them, they get to decide which ones to wear each game. I got no opinion on that. Okay. So whether they want to wear maroon, black, or orange on the road, what white one they want, that's, not in my.
we got some time for some fun ones real fast, Jordan?
Sure.
Couple fun ones? All right, let's do it.
Yes. What
has been your favorite part of Blacksburg so far? Year 2 at Virginia Tech, what's your favorite part about Blacksburg, Virginia?
I have many things so far, but I don't know if I would have said this when I first got the job because I hadn't experienced it, but being in Castle when it's full with Castle Guard and our fans and just the energy is amazing. So our fan base for women's basketball and the excitement is still by far, because I can name the restaurants and the people, all the stuff outside, but being in that building on game day is awesome.
Have you found, you mentioned restaurants, have you found are there a couple different places you just love going to all the time? I
always tease, I don't get out much, but yeah, I mean, I like the basic PKs. We go to Greens a lot randomly with when visitors are on campus. We cater different spots. I tried the new, couple new spots by Kroger. There's just a lot of good ones. Avellino's were always too.
Avellino's,
and I'm going to offend people, but that Hatch, is that the new one?
Yeah.
We tried, Kevin and I tried that one time. So if we can sneak in and sneak out, sometimes it's to go, but we like being around the community.
Can I ask you something that I don't know if you've ever actually been asked of Virginia Tech?
Yeah.
What do you remember from the NCAA tournament game in the bubble against Virginia Tech when you coached against them at Marquette?
Yeah, I forget a lot of things, but I do remember that game. That was just, take out Marquette and Virginia Tech playing, because I feel like when that was announced of who you were playing, it was actually more I don't remember who we're playing this bubble. We're going to San Antonio. We have to do all the COVID tests. We have to be on lockdown for a little bit. I mean, it felt nothing like a real NCAA tournament. And then it was almost like Disney World, where all the teams are walking around, but you can't talk to them because we can't have any COVID issues. And then you're preparing. My gift is to prepare for Liz and Georgia and Kayla, and Shep was there at the time, right? So it was just we we made a hell of a comeback at the end to cut it to, I think, a 1 possession game. But they were getting us pretty good at halftime. We changed the game plan completely at halftime because plan A and B did not work. And then we went to C and D, and that worked. But it wasn't enough. But yeah, little did I know, a few years later, things would happen.
Full
and
circle.
Here I am.
You just talked about Liz for a little bit, but like, having her back in the fold, having coached against her, what is it like? I guess with her, what she can do in terms of, I don't know how much coaching, quote unquote, she can do during practice and stuff, but like, I mean, we're talking about a 3-time ACC Player of the Year. Her as a voice to your players, what's that going to be like?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great because she doesn't have to do the coaching. That's not part of her role. We only get so many coaches on the floor who can actually instruct and work them out. But the great thing is her presence at practice, just her knowledge of the game, or just, helping a kid mentally through something. I've been there before. You're going to be okay. The confidence, the relationship. That's where I need her for. Yes, she can, her turnaround Dirk and her, hook shot and all that stuff, her jumper. Anybody remembers her, like it's still elite, but just her as a person, I think, is going to be the most valuable part. They have enough kids yelling at them and telling them what to do. But when it's your peer or somebody that has accomplished so much, sometimes the players will listen to her probably more than us at points, but that's a good thing.
How about favorite road venue that you played in the ACC? I know you haven't been to all of them yet because it's only been year one, but
it's a half and
Duke,
half.
Carolina, NC State, you've been to all those, UVA.
I enjoyed playing at UVA this past year because we had a really big win. That was good, and it was a pretty quiet arena, which means we were doing well. Going to Carolina was neat. NC State, people talked about with their new arena how it's a little bit smaller, and when they fill it up, it's loud. It lived up to all of that. So I look forward to bringing some of those guys back into Castle.
What are you most excited for about this schedule, the schedule you guys have created this year, and how it shakes out? Yeah,
there's a couple stretches that are tough, and you want to find that balance when you have a new team, get them acclimated, get them going. Cool home and home. We're starting with JMU, who's always really good, so we'll play there. Then we go to our MTE tournament, and then we go Florida Duke, and ACC games are thrown in there now. Used to start after the first of the year. Now we got a couple mixed in there, so all different styles. We got to be ready. I think now that we're a week from really playing, it feels a little bit more like, all right, we got to be heightened on like what needs to be great going into night one. And I tell the team though this from a coaching side, I think they get anxious and excited to play, but like we don't stop practicing. It's not like we play a game and then it's just going to be game. We have, close to, 70, 80 practices still that, to go. So even if we're not great or we have a rough game or we win and it's still not the finished product, you get to come back the next day, which is great versus, your last game in March.
Well, Coach, really appreciate you swinging by. Best of luck this season. I know we'll be chatting. And once again, thanks for stopping by. So we appreciate it.
Thanks, Carter. Thanks, David.
For head coach Megan Duffy, for David Cunningham, Nick Brown, I'm Carter Hill saying so long from episode 448 of the Tech Sideline podcast. And we'll talk to you, very soon. Hokies open up next Tuesday, by the way. Towson, 6 o'clock, Castle Coliseum, ACC Network Extra. We'll talk to you very soon.